coach started again. There were no houses, no trees, only open land. Mary felt a little afraid, but she did not show it. At last, the coach stopped. "Here it is," the driver said. He quickly took her box down. "Knock on the door," he said. Then he left quickly. Mary stood alone in the dark. The wind was loud. She felt cold. Then the door opened. A big man stood there. His face was dark. His eyes looked angry. "Who are you?" he shouted. "I am Mary Yellen," she said. The man laughed. "So you have come," he said. "I am Joss Merlin, your uncle. Welcome to Jamaica Inn." He pulled her inside and closed the door. Chapter 2. Uncle Joss Mary stood inside Jamaica Inn. It was dark and cold. The walls were made of stone. The floor was hard. A big man stood in front of her. He was very tall and strong. His face was dark, and his eyes were cruel. His name was Joss Merlin, Mary's uncle. "So you have come to live with us," Joss said. He laughed, but his laugh was not friendly. "Where is Aunt Patience?" Mary asked. Joss shouted up the stairs. "Patience, come down. Your niece is here." Mary heard soft footsteps. Then a woman came down the stairs. It was Aunt Patience, but she looked old and weak. Her hair was gray. Her eyes looked scared. She was not happy and smiling like before. "Aunt Patience," Mary said. Aunt Patience held Mary's hands. "You have really come," she whispered. Then tears came to her eyes. Joss got angry. "Stop crying," he shouted. "Make food for the girl. She must eat." Aunt Patience wiped her tears and ran to the kitchen. Mary followed her. In the kitchen, Aunt Patience cooked food. She spoke softly. "Your uncle is a hard man," she said. "He must be obeyed. Do not make him angry." Joss came in and sat down. He ate a big piece of bread. Then he gave Mary a small piece. "Listen to me, Mary," he said. "You will work here. You will help in the house and in the bar. If you listen to me, I will not hurt you." Mary looked at him. "I will do my work," she said. "But if you hurt Aunt Patience, I will leave this place and tell the law." Joss looked at her. He smiled a cruel smile. "You are brave, aren't you?" he said. "We will see. Maybe one day you will work for me in a different way." Aunt Patience gasped. "Joss, no!" she cried. "Go to bed, Patience," Joss shouted. "The girl and I understand each other." Aunt Patience ran upstairs. Joss looked at Mary. "There will be strange nights at Jamaica Inn," he said. "Sometimes you will hear wagons stop outside. You will hear voices and footsteps." Mary listened. "When that happens," Joss said, "stay in bed. Do not look. Do not ask questions." Mary nodded. "Yes, Uncle," she said. "Good," Joss said. "Now go to bed." Mary's room. Mary's room was cold and empty. The bed was hard. The wind whistled outside. She looked out of the window. The land was dark and lonely. No houses, no people. Mary felt afraid, but she would not leave. She must stay for Aunt Patience. She lay on her bed and closed her eyes. Outside, the wind howled. Chapter 3. The Locked Room. The next morning, Mary woke up to the sound of strong wind. The sun was shining, but the air was cold. She got out of bed and looked around her small, empty room. The walls were bare, and the bed was hard and uncomfortable. She knew she had to get used to this place, but it didn't feel like home. After breakfast, Mary helped Aunt Patience with the housework. As she cleaned, she explored the inn. It was a dark, strange place with long hallways and many empty rooms. The bar was at the front, smelling of old tobacco and spilled drinks. It looked dirty, as if many rough men had been there. As Mary walked down a long passage, she noticed a locked door at the end. She tried to open it, but it wouldn't move. She peeked through the keyhole, but it was too dark inside. Curious, she went outside to look through the window, but it was covered with wooden planks. She wondered why her uncle had locked this room. Later, she asked Aunt Patience about it. The woman's face turned pale and she started shaking. "You must never ask about that room," she whispered. "Your uncle will be very angry." Mary felt uneasy. What was inside that room? Why was her aunt so scared? Joss Merlin had gone away that morning, and the inn was quiet. Mary decided to take a walk outside. She stepped into the empty yard and looked around. The road stretched far with no houses in sight. The land was wild and lonely, with only the moors in every direction. She suddenly realized how far away she was from everything. If she needed help, there was no one nearby. As she stood outside, she promised herself one thing. She would find out the truth about Jamaica Inn. Something was wrong here, and she would not ignore it. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought about the locked room. She thought about her uncle's words. "Stay in bed. Don't ask questions." But Mary was not a child. She was strong. She would not stay silent forever. Chapter 4. Wagons in the Night. That evening, Joss Merlin returned home. He looked tired and angry. Mary stayed quiet, not wanting to make him angry. After dinner, Joss called her. "You will help in the bar tonight," he said. "It's Saturday night, and we will have visitors." Mary stood behind the bar, watching the men who arrived. They were rough, dirty, and smelled of drink and smoke. They laughed loudly, slapped the tables, and drank too much beer. Some had long, messy hair. Others had broken teeth. The room became hot and smoky, and Mary felt uncomfortable. One man, a small peddler, started singing. The men cheered and laughed. But Mary thought the laughter sounded strange. Not happy, but wild and dangerous. She felt a cold fear in her heart. These were not good men. After some time, she whispered to Joss, "I want to go to bed now." Joss grabbed her wrist hard and bent down to her ear. "Go then," he said, his breath smelling of alcohol. "But lock your door tonight, and remember, do not listen, do not look, do not ask." Mary ran up the stairs, her heart beating fast. She closed the door and locked it. She put her fingers in her ears to block the noise. But later, she woke up suddenly. The house was silent. She listened carefully. Then she heard it. A strange noise from below. Mary got out of bed and tiptoed to the window. Outside, she saw wagons in the yard. There were 5 or 6 of them, covered with cloth. The horses were tired and steaming in the cold air. Men were unloading heavy boxes from the wagons. They carried them inside, probably to the locked room. Everything was done in silence. Unlike the loud, laughing men from before, these men were serious and careful. Then Jos came outside. "Is that all?" he asked. A man nodded. Then, one by one, the wagons left the yard. Some went north, some south, disappearing into the night. Mary's hands were cold. She was breathing fast. Now she understood. Jamaica Inn was a place for smugglers. Her uncle was hiding stolen goods. The locked room was where they kept them. Mary sat on her bed, shaking. She could not tell anyone. She was trapped in this house with dangerous men all around her. Her uncle's warning came back to her. Do not ask questions. But Mary had questions, and one day she would find the answers. Chapter 5. Jem Merlin. A few weeks passed. Jos Merlin was away for many days. The inn was quiet, and Mary felt less afraid. She spent time helping patients and walking on the moors. But she never forgot about the wagons in the night and the locked room. One morning, as Mary was cleaning the bar, she heard a loud knock on the door. She wiped her hands and went to open it. A man stood there, holding a glass of beer. He had dark hair, a sharp face, and a smile that was not friendly. Mary did not like him. "Who are you?" she asked. The man laughed. "You must be Mary Yellen," he said. "I am Jem Merlin, Jos's younger brother." Mary looked at him closely. He did look like Jos, but smaller and neater. His eyes were bright, but there was something cruel in his smile. "You are Jos's brother?" Mary asked. "Yes," Jem said. "And you? Why are you here?" "My mother died," Mary said. "I came to live with Aunt Patience." Jem looked surprised. "Then you have made a big mistake," he said. "Jamaica Inn is no place for a girl." Mary felt angry. "I will not leave my aunt alone," she said. "Jos has made her weak and afraid. I hate him for that." Jem smiled. "We Merlins are not kind men," he said. "Our father was a murderer. My brother is dangerous. And people say I am just as bad." Mary watched him carefully. "What do you do for work?" she asked. Jem grinned. "I steal horses," he said. "But I am very clever. When a horse disappears, the owner never finds it again. I change its marks and color. No one knows it's the same horse." Mary wanted to hate him, but she couldn't. He was not like Jos. He was wild, but he was not cruel. At least not yet. "Jamaica Inn is dangerous," Jem said again. "You should leave." Mary shook her head. "I will not go," she said. Jem sighed. "You are brave," he said. "Well, if you ever need help, my house is on the other side of the marsh. You can come to me." Then he jumped on his horse and rode away. Mary stood in the cold yard, watching him disappear. She didn't trust him, but one day she might need him. Chapter 6. Mr. Bassett's Visit. That night the wagons came again. This time they were empty. The men took the last boxes from the locked room and loaded them onto the wagons. Then, just like before, they left in silence, disappearing into the night. Mary now understood. Jamaica Inn was used as a store for stolen goods. The wagons came to hide the goods, and later they took them away. It was a dangerous secret, and now Mary was a part of it. A few days later, the weather changed. The sun shone brightly, and the air was cold and fresh. Mary was washing clothes outside when she suddenly heard a loud knock on the door. Aunt Patience ran to the window. When she saw who it was, her face turned white. "Mary," she whispered, "it's Mr. Bassett from North Hill. He is a magistrate. He has come to search the inn." Mary felt her heart race. If Mr. Bassett searched the locked room, would he find something? She did not know. The knocking got louder. "Open the door!" Mr. Bassett shouted. Mary took a deep breath and opened it. Mr. Bassett was a strong man with a serious face. Another man, his servant, stood behind him. "Where is your uncle, Joss Merlin?" Mr. Bassett asked. "He is not here," Mary answered. "Good," Mr. Bassett said. "Then I will search this place." Aunt Patience gasped. "No, you cannot," she cried. "I have the law on my side," Mr. Bassett said. "I will look inside." He and his servant searched every room. They opened cupboards, checked under beds, and looked behind furniture. Finally, Mr. Bassett came to the locked door at the end of the passage. "This door is locked," he said. "Where is the key?" "I don't know," Mary said. "My uncle keeps it." "Then we will break the door," Mr. Bassett said. His servant hit the door with a heavy iron bar. The wood cracked. After a few minutes, the door broke open. Everyone held their breath as Mr. Bassett stepped inside. The room was empty. There were no stolen goods, no boxes, no barrels, only a pile of old bags and a piece of rope on the floor. Mr. Bassett cursed loudly. "Joss Merlin has fooled me again," he shouted. "I know he is a criminal, but I have no proof." He turned to Mary. "Do you know anything about your uncle's business?" he asked. Mary met his eyes. She wanted to tell the truth, but she couldn't. If she told him about the wagons, Joss would kill Aunt Patience. "I don't know anything," she said. Mr. Bassett stared at her. Then he sighed. "If you ever hear anything strange," he said, "you must tell me." He climbed onto his horse and rode away. Mary felt tired and afraid. The magistrate had come so close to the truth. But Joss had hidden everything. She knew one thing. Joss Merlin was clever and dangerous. And now she was trapped with him. Chapter 7. The Vicar of Alternon. For 5 days, Joss Merlin was drunk. He lay on a bed in the kitchen, unable to move or speak clearly. He shouted for drink, cried like a child, and then slept again. His face was pale, and his hands shook. Aunt Patience took care of him. She brought him food and drink. Even when he shouted at her, she did not complain. Mary watched her with sadness. Aunt Patience loved her husband, even though he was cruel to her. On the 5th day, the weather was clear. Mary decided to walk on the moors. She needed fresh air and time to think. She walked for more than an hour. The land around her was empty and quiet. Then she reached a deep valley with a small river. The ground here was wet and soft. She realized she had walked too far. Suddenly, she heard the sound of a horse. A man on horseback came out of the mist. He stopped when he saw her. "Are you lost?" he asked. His voice was kind. Mary looked at him. He was different from other men. His hair was white, but his face was young. His eyes were pale, almost white, like glass. "I live at Jamaica Inn," she said. The man was silent for a moment. Then he said, "You have walked in the wrong direction. Come with me. I will take you to my house." Mary hesitated, but the man looked gentle and kind. She trusted him. They rode together to a small stone house. Inside, the fire was warm and the room was peaceful. Mary sat near the fire, feeling safe for the first time in weeks. The man gave her tea. "I am Francis Davy," he said. "I am the vicar of Altarnan." Mary was surprised. A vicar was a man of God, someone who helped people. She suddenly felt she could talk to him. "I am in great trouble," she whispered. The vicar listened carefully. Mary told him everything about Jamaica Inn, the wagons, the locked room, and her uncle's threats. She even told him about the man who disappeared. Francis Davy nodded slowly. "This is a dark and dangerous business," he said, "but without proof, nothing can be done." Mary felt hopeless. "I wish I could stop my uncle," she said. "You must be patient," the vicar said. "When the wagons come again, tell me. Then we will act." Mary felt relieved. She finally had someone to help her. "It is late," the vicar said. "I will take you back to Jamaica Inn." As they rode, the wind was strong and the moors were dark. But Mary felt less afraid. When they reached Jamaica Inn, the vicar stopped. "Look through the window," he said. Mary looked. Jos Merlin was sitting at the table. His eyes were open, but he was not moving. A broken bottle lay near him. He had drunk too much and passed out. "You can go inside," the vicar said. "He will not see you tonight." Mary opened the door quietly and stepped inside. "Remember," the vicar whispered, "I am your friend. If you need help, come to me." Then he rode away, disappearing into the dark moors. Mary stood in the silent inn, feeling both afraid and hopeful. Chapter 8. Jos's Dreams. For 5 days, Jos Merlin lay in bed, too drunk to move. He shouted, cried, and then fell asleep again. His hands shook, and his face was pale. Aunt Patience took care of him. She gave him food and water. Even when he pushed her away, she never complained. Mary watched and felt sorry for her. On the 5th day, Jos woke up properly. He sat up in bed, his eyes red and tired. He looked at Mary and laughed weakly. "You think I'm a drunken fool, don't you?" he said. Mary did not answer. Jos stretched his arms. "I had dreams," he said. "Terrible dreams. I saw faces in the dark. I heard screams. Do you know why, Mary?" Mary shook her head. Jos leaned closer. "Because I have done bad things," he whispered. "Things I cannot forget." Mary felt cold. "What things?" she asked. Jos stared at her for a moment. He looked afraid. Then he laughed. "You ask too many questions," he said. "One day you'll learn the truth." That evening, Jos got out of bed. He washed his face and combed his hair. Then he sat by the fire and drank more beer. Mary watched him silently. He was not just a drunk man, he was dangerous. Late at night, Mary lay in bed, thinking about what he had said. She knew now. Joss Merlin had a secret, a terrible secret, and one day she would discover it. Chapter 9. Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve, and the sky was dark and cloudy. The wind was cold, and rain was coming soon. Mary stood by the window, thinking about Jem Merlin. He had asked her to meet him today. He wanted to take her to Launceston Market. She was unsure. Jem was a thief, and he lied often. But still she liked him. He was different from Joss. He was wild, but not cruel. She wanted to know the truth about him. Finally, she decided to go. She put on her cloak and quietly left Jamaica Inn. At the market in Launceston, Jem was waiting for her with a horse and cart. "You came," he said, smiling. They rode together to Launceston, where the market was busy. People were selling fruit, clothes, and animals. There was music and laughter everywhere. Jem took Mary to buy gold earrings. They ate oranges under a tent. A fortune teller looked at Mary's hand and said, "Do not trust a dark stranger." Jem laughed and said, "Maybe that's me." They were happy together, and Mary almost forgot her worries. But deep inside, she knew Jamaica Inn was waiting for her. A kiss and a warning. It started raining. The wind became strong. Jem pulled Mary into a doorway for shelter. He held her close and kissed her. "You don't want to ride home in this storm," he said. "Stay with me in Launceston tonight." Mary pushed him away. "No," she said. "I will go home." Jem sighed. "Fine," he said. "I will get the horse and cart." Mary waited outside in the rain. She was cold and tired, but Jem did not come back. She waited longer. The streets were empty now. She felt worried. Had Jem left without her? She walked to a hotel and asked about him. Inside, she saw rich men drinking. The servant told her to leave. "Please," she said, "I am looking for Jem Merlin." A man turned and looked at her. His eyes were sharp and suspicious. Mary's heart sank. Something was wrong. Chapter 10. The Wreck. The journey to the coast was long and rough. Mary sat in the carriage, hurt and scared. Joss Merlin had kidnapped her. He held her tight and whispered, "You will watch what happens tonight. You will see what we do." His breath smelled of alcohol, and his eyes were wide. The carriage stopped in a valley near the sea. Mary heard the waves crashing in the distance. She tried to open the door, but it was locked. She was trapped. Suddenly she heard shouting. The men were running toward the shore. Mary knew what was happening. Joss and his gang were wreckers. They waited for ships to crash on the rocks, then killed the sailors and stole everything. She climbed out of the carriage window, falling hard on the ground. Her hands were bleeding, but she got up quickly. She had to see the truth with her own eyes. The shipwrecked Mary ran toward the cliffs. She could see a ship in the water. It was in trouble, fighting against the strong waves. The men on the ship shouted for help. But there was no help, only Joss Merlin and his men, waiting for it to crash. Joss held a lantern high. He moved it slowly, tricking the ship into thinking it was sailing safely. Then suddenly the ship hit the rocks. There was a loud crash. The wooden ship broke apart, and the sailors fell into the freezing sea. Mary covered her mouth in horror. The men in the water screamed, trying to swim to shore. But Jos and his gang stood there, waiting. When the first sailor reached the rocks, Jos pulled out a knife. "No," Mary whispered. But she could do nothing. The sailor begged for his life. Jos laughed, then stabbed him. His body fell into the waves. The other men did the same. They killed the survivors one by one. No one was left alive. Mary felt sick. Her hands shook. She wanted to run away. But where could she go? A night of fear. Jos and his men stole everything from the ship. They carried boxes and barrels, filling their wagons. The bodies of the sailors were left floating in the water. Mary knew she could never forget this night. She had to tell someone. But who would believe her? Suddenly, Jos grabbed her arm. "You saw everything," he whispered. His eyes were dark and dangerous. "If you tell anyone, you will end up like them." Mary nodded slowly. She had no choice. Jos pushed her into a wagon, and they rode back to Jamaica Inn. The wind howled around them, and the waves crashed behind them. Mary sat quietly, her heart pounding. She had to escape. She had to stop Jos Merlin. But how? In Chapter 11, Jos plans to escape. Mary woke up in her room at Jamaica Inn. Her head hurt, and she felt weak. She had been asleep for 2 days. When she opened her eyes, she saw Aunt Patience sitting beside her. Her aunt's eyes were red, as if she had been crying. "How long have I been here?" Mary asked. "It is your second day in bed," Aunt Patience said. Mary sat up slowly. Her body ached, but she forced herself to stand up and get dressed. "You should rest," Aunt Patience said. "No," Mary said. "I have had enough. I cannot stay here and do nothing." Jos was afraid. Downstairs, Mary saw Jos Merlin. He looked different. His face was pale and his eyes were tired. Mary whispered back. Jem looked around, trying to find a way up. He found a ledge, pulled himself up, and climbed onto the low roof above the front door. Slowly, he made his way to her window. Mary knelt by the window. Jem looked tired and worried. His eyes were dark, as if he had not slept for days. "I'm sorry," Jem said. "I left you alone on Christmas Eve, but I can't tell you why." Mary felt angry and hurt. He had abandoned her in the market, and now he was back without an explanation. "Why are you here?" she asked. "I came to see Jos," Jem said. "But if he's sitting downstairs with a gun, I won't go in." Mary hesitated. "He's afraid," she said. "He knows something bad is coming." Jem looked serious. "Then I must leave now," he said. "I can't stay here." Mary watched him jump down from the roof and disappear into the dark moors. She felt a wave of fear. Something was going to happen tonight. She could feel it. Sitting on her cold bed, Mary knew she had to escape. She had to find the vicar, Francis Davy. He was the only person she could trust. Carefully, she put on her cloak and listened. The house was quiet. Jos was still awake downstairs. but Aunt Patience was sleeping. Taking a deep breath, she unlocked her door softly and stepped into the dark passage. She had one chance to escape, and she had to take it. Chapter 13. Murder at Jamaica Inn. Mary arrived in Alternoon, exhausted and breathless. She knocked urgently on the vicar's door, hoping for help. A housekeeper answered, looking surprised to see her at such a late hour. When Mary asked for Francis Davy, the woman shook her head. "The vicar is not here," she said. "He left for another village this morning and won't return tonight." Mary's heart sank. She had come so far, thinking the vicar could help her. But now she was alone again. She quickly asked about the nearest magistrate, hoping that Mr. Bassat could help. The housekeeper told her that Mr. Bassat lived 4 miles away in North Hill. Mary had no choice. She had to keep going. The road was dark and empty, and the wind was cold against her skin. She walked as fast as she could, fear pushing her forward. It took her an hour to reach Mr. Bassat's house. She knocked on the heavy wooden door, her hands trembling. A servant answered, frowning at her sudden arrival. "I must speak to Mr. Bassat," Mary said, breathless. "It's urgent." The servant hesitated, then shook his head. "Mr. Bassat is not here," he said. "He left for Launceston this morning and hasn't returned." Mary felt a wave of hopelessness. The 2 people she had trusted, Francis Davy and Mr. Bassat, were both gone. She had no one to help her. She turned and walked back toward Jamaica Inn, feeling cold and afraid. Something terrible had already happened, and now she was walking straight back into danger. When she reached the inn, the house was silent. The door was slightly open, and a strange stillness filled the air. Carefully, she stepped inside, listening for any sound. Then she saw him. Jos Merlin lay on the floor, his body covered in blood. His eyes were staring, his face frozen in fear. He had been murdered. Mary stood frozen, unable to breathe. She had known someone was after him, but she'd never expected this. His worst fear had come true. The person he had betrayed had come for revenge. She turned wildly, searching for Aunt Patience. But the house was empty. The silence felt heavy, as if it were holding a terrible secret. Mary felt her heart racing. Whoever had killed Jos could still be nearby. She needed to run, to escape. But where was Aunt Patience? Had she run away, or had she been taken? Mary took a deep breath, fear and shock twisting inside her. One thing was clear. Jamaica Inn was no longer safe. She had to get out. She had to find help. And she had to learn the truth before it was too late. Chapter 14. The Peddler is Found. Mary stood frozen near the stairs. Her heart pounded, and her breath came in short gasps. The silence inside Jamaica Inn was heavy and unnatural. The ticking clock had stopped, and the house felt empty and lifeless. The air was thick, filled with the weight of something terrible. She wanted to move, but she could not. Jos Merlin's lifeless body lay on the floor, his blood soaking into the wooden planks. His face was twisted, his eyes open in terror. Someone had come for him in the dead of night and killed him without mercy. Mary knew she had to leave, but her legs felt weak and heavy. She turned toward the stairs, hesitating for a moment. Was Aunt Patience still inside? Was she dead or alive? Suddenly a voice broke the silence. Has your aunt gone? A man whispered behind her. Mary spun around and saw Mr. Richards, a local officer, standing in the doorway. His face was filled with concern. I don't know, Mary stammered. I didn't see her. I just ran when I found Joss. Richards led her outside where the cold night air hit her face. She was shaking violently, her body numb from shock. That was no sight for a young girl, he said. You shouldn't have seen that. Mary took a deep breath, trying to control her thoughts. Who could have killed him? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Richards frowned. That's what we need to find out, he said. But Joss Merlin had many enemies. It could have been any of them. Mary suddenly remembered something. The peddler, she said. He was locked in a room here. Could he have done it? Richards considered this. It's possible, he said. If the peddler escaped, he would have had a reason for revenge. Mary's mind raced. Had the peddler killed Joss and run away? Or was there someone else involved? Someone even more dangerous? The night was cold and dark, and the truth felt just out of reach. Whoever had murdered Joss Merlin was still out there, and Mary was not safe yet. Chapter 15. The Truth is Told. Mary sat in the vicar's house, staring into the warm fire. She had slept for a long time, but she still felt tired and confused. Everything had happened so fast. Joss Merlin was dead, and Aunt Patience was missing. Now she was in Altarnan, waiting for answers. Francis Davy, the vicar, sat across from her. His pale eyes watched her calmly, and his voice was soft when he spoke. You are safe here, Mary, he said. Tell me everything. Slowly, Mary told him everything she had seen. The wrecks, the murders, and Joss's fears before he died. She did not cry, but her voice trembled. The vicar listened without speaking. When she finished, he nodded. It is as I thought, he said. Joss was afraid because he had betrayed his leader. Someone higher than him gave the orders. That person is the real danger. Mary shivered. But who is it? She asked. Who was controlling? Joseph. The vicar leaned forward. I have my suspicions, he said, but we must be sure before we act. Jem returned. Mary stayed at the vicar's house for a few hours. She felt safe, but she knew she could not stay there forever. She had to find Aunt Patience and discover the truth. As she was thinking, she heard horses outside, then a loud knock on the door. The vicar opened it, and Jem Merlin stepped inside. His face was pale, and his clothes were wet from the rain. He looked at Mary. You're here, he said. Mary stood up quickly. Jem, where have you been? I heard about Joss, he said. I came back as soon as I could. The vicar watched them carefully. Jem, do you know anything about Joss's murder? He asked. Jem shook his head. No, he said. But I know one thing. Whoever killed him isn't done yet. There's more to come. Mary's heart pounded. The danger was not over. Someone was still out there, and she had to find out who it was before it was too late. Chapter 16. The Night on the Moors. Mary sat in the vicar's house staring at the fire. The room was warm, but she felt cold inside. Francis Davy sat across from her, watching her with his pale eyes. The silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. At last he spoke. "There is no longer any need for us to pretend," he said. His voice was calm, but there was something strange about his tone. "You are wondering, Mary, what kind of man is the Vicar of Alternon?" His pale face remained unreadable. Mary felt a chill. Something about him had changed. The kind, gentle vicar she had trusted was gone. Francis Davy stood up and moved toward the fire. "I do not belong in this world," he continued. "I walk in a different time, a time when the old gods ruled the hills. The world has forgotten them, but I have not." Mary's breath caught in her throat. She tried to understand his words, but they made no sense. "I don't understand you, Mr. Davy," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The vicar turned to face her. "You will," he said. "Soon enough, you will." Mary gripped the arms of her chair, feeling trapped. She had come here for help, but had she just walked into greater danger? A sudden escape. The vicar leaned closer. "We must leave," he said. "Tonight. We have nothing to carry, and we will travel light, as people did in the old days." His voice was calm, too calm. Mary's heart raced. He was not trying to help her. He was taking her away. She jumped to her feet, knocking over her chair. "No," she said. "I'm not going anywhere with you." The vicar did not move. His pale eyes watched her. Then he smiled, a slow, knowing smile. "You have no choice," he said. Mary turned and ran for the door. She grabbed the handle and pulled, but it would not open. Francis Davy sighed. "Do not fight me, Mary," he said. "It will be easier if you come quietly." Mary's hands shook as she tried the door again. She was trapped. The vicar was not her savior. He was the real danger all along, and now she had to escape before it was too late. Chapter 17. A New Life. The morning was cold and bright. A thin layer of ice covered the roads, and the wind was sharp against Mary's face. She walked across the moors, her thoughts racing. Everything was over now. Joss Merlin was dead. Francis Davy had met his end, and the danger that had haunted her for so long was gone. As she walked, she looked around her. The darkness that once seemed to live in the moors had lifted. The land was still wild and lonely, but it no longer felt threatening. She realized something. She was free now. She could go wherever she wanted. Her thoughts turned to Helford, the small village where she had grown up. She could see it in her mind. The green valleys, the warm cottages, the gentle river. She felt a deep longing for home. She had come so far, seen so much cruelty and fear. But now, all she wanted was peace. Jem Merlin's return. As she walked, she saw a cart coming toward her from the hills. It was piled high with furniture, as if someone was moving away. She stopped, watching it approach. Then the driver looked up and waved. It was Jem Merlin. "Are you better?" he called. "I heard you were ill and staying in bed."